There it is. He timed it right.
Counting to explode with the left. Oh, and that right, but Davis took off some of the steam of the punch, but still.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The WBA orders Gervonta Davis versus Floyd Schofield. The sanctioning body has officially ordered the Baltimore native to face Schofield, the #1 contender, in a mandatory contest. Both sides were informed Saturday of the WBA's decision. They have until June 22nd to come to an agreement. If one can't be made, a purse bid will be called. Schofield hasn't fought since a first-round knockout over former champion Fevin Tarmer last June. There's no good reason for him to have sat out this long. He has been waiting to make a Lucas Body fight for what was supposed to be the newly vacated WBA title after the WBA initially labeled Gervonta Davis a champion in recess, but they have since rescinded that designation. It's not clear as to why, since Gervonta Davis hasn't been in action since drawing with Lamont Roach in March of the previous year. A few days later, Davis officially triggered his immediate rematch clause, but later elected to fight Jake Paul instead, which didn't happen either. The clash with Paul never came into fruition as Davis's ex-girlfriend, Courtney Russell, filed a civil suit in Miami-Dade County, Florida, accusing Davis of aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Davis was arrested in January after a warrant was issued on charges of battery, false imprisonment, and attempted kidnapping, as reported by The Ring earlier this year. Davis has been working on his return. Talks have been ongoing between his camp and Usyk Cruz, who he beat by decision in 2021. It's not going to be Usyk. Not that he's at liberty to fight Usyk and stay WBA champion, because he's not. He's under orders. But recent reports reveal that Usyk Cruz has now paired up with famed trainer Eddie Reynoso. Eddie's going to be training him now. And with Eddie Reynoso being his trainer, Usyk being within proximity of Canelo Alvarez, it's conceivable that maybe Usyk Cruz fights on Canelo Alvarez's undercard in September, making him unavailable for a Gervonta Davis rematch. We know for the longest time he's wanted one, but it may be a day late and a dollar short, as Gervonta is now under orders to fight Floyd Schofield instead. Can we really trust the WBA to do their job? I mean, I don't. Not really. The order itself took me by surprise because the WBA isn't normally in the business of inconveniencing PBC fighters with pesky mandatories. Look at the Rolly Romero situation. They let a year go by without forcing him to fight Shakram Giyasov. So why am I supposed to believe they're going to force Gervonta to fight Floyd Schofield? For what it's worth, the Schofields want that fight and have been advocating for it for the last few weeks. They want their shot at the big time. They want to fight Gervonta Davis. I suppose that, for them, now would be as good a time as any to take on the reigning champion, since Gervonta hasn't fought in well over a year. That could leave him rusty, vulnerable. He looked vulnerable in his last fight with Lamont Roach. Lamont supposed to be fighting William Zepeda. So, I mean, maybe he'll be even more vulnerable if he has to fight Floyd Schofield. Vulnerable enough that the Schofields beat him? Not exactly, because where Gervonta Davis hasn't fought in a while, neither have they. It's been close to a year since the Tevin Farmer fight that only lasted one round, and that's the only fight that Floyd Schofield had in the previous year, to where if they're lucky enough to get this fight, it'll likely have been over a year's time since they fought, putting them and Gervonta on an even keel. That if you look at his inactivity as a disadvantage, it's a disadvantage they both share. Experience would have to go to the champion, compared to Floyd Schofield at least. Gervonta Davis has been in there with the bigger names and the better fighters, so you could still give him the edge even though he's been out a while. His heart really isn't in it. There was a recent video of Gervonta Davis that surfaced this past week, seeing him in the club dancing with some girl. I don't think he's got his mind on boxing right now, but they say he's charting his return while he's still in the thick of this legal battle. He hasn't made that problem go away yet. I don't know that he's going to. The idea of Gervonta Davis boxing Floyd Schofield in the not-so-distant future, I don't know if that happens. But stylistically, it's a fight that's right up his alley. Floyd is a very aggressive guy, likes to fight mid-range to inside, but defensively he's leaky, to where Gervonta Davis, he can catch him in between. It is a fight that he can win, though we'll see if it happens. In men's heavyweight news, Usyk and Kabayel are eager to square off later this year. After Usyk's 11th round stoppage win to retain his Ring Magazine and WBC belts on Saturday in the main event of Glory at Giza in Egypt, Agit Kabayel was in the ring and called for a shot at the unified heavyweight champion. Usyk responded by saying he was ready to face the undefeated German next. "I've waited so long for this situation," Kabayel said. "I'm ready. I think Germany is ready for the fight. I know many Ukrainian people live in Germany." It was already understood ahead of this weekend's card that Usyk would be on the hook to face Agit Kabayel next or forfeit the green and gold title. Agit Kabayel continued, "Let's do it in Germany, in a stadium. I think all the fans in boxing want this fight. Let's do it," Usyk said. Usyk, "Let's do it. No problem. I'm ready." But is he? Given how he looked yesterday against a novice boxer? I think people choose to blow things out of proportion. It's not that it's not jarring that Usyk looked so human against Rico Verhoeven yesterday. He did. But it's entirely possible Usyk just looked past the guy, didn't take him seriously, and for somebody like Agit Kabayel, he's gonna focus up like he usually does. It wasn't even me. It was T Street Controversy that said, "I'm really not surprised, but..." A lot of Usyk haters lifted their mask yesterday, and mostly Americans, specifically African Americans. They are salivating from the nuts for the same to happen to Inoue. Yeah, I said that shit. I fucking see y'all. I see them too, T-Street. Because Americans these days really don't like boxing for the sake of boxing and sport for the sake of sport. They need to have an agenda in play, an ulterior motive, otherwise they get bored. Now they've got that to which they can hold against Alexander Usyk. Agit Kabayel is the ring's number 2 heavyweight and the number 1 contender for Usyk's WBC title. Kabayel's co-promoter, Spencer Brown, said the fight is going to be ordered by the WBC and will be next. He added that he hoped the fight would take place at the end of September or October in Germany. There can only be one fight, Brown said in the post-fight interview. Both agreed to it, so let's get it on. Turki El Sheikh hopes to make Usyk versus Kabayel at a stadium in Germany. Boxing has commonly been billed as the theater of the unexpected, and Usyk, the ring's number 2 fighter pound for pound, nearly found himself on the wrong end of a decision. In one of the biggest upsets in sports history, 2 of the judges, Manuel Palomo and Fabian Guggenheim, had the bout 95-95, with Pascual Procopio having Verhoeven ahead 96-94 heading into the 11th. With the fight hanging in the balance, Usyk's championship medal shone through as he dropped Verhoeven with a right uppercut with just over 20 seconds left. In the 11th, Verhoeven rose to his feet on wobbly legs and walked unsteadily to his corner after spitting out his mouthpiece. A veteran tactic, buying himself time to recover and gain his equilibrium back. Knowing the end of the round was near, Usyk pressed the action with Verhoeven's back to the corner as the Ukrainian flurried. Referee Mark Lyson stopped the fight right as the bell rang. Verhoeven, who was 66-10 with 21 KOs as a kickboxer and reigned as the Glory Kickboxing Heavyweight Champion from 2013 till last year, said on social media that he filed an official protest of the result. So should we be worried that Father Time is finally caught up with Alexander Usyk, and ahead of an Agit Kabayel fight, he just might not have it anymore to compete in the land of the giants? I really don't know, because it's entirely possible that he was looking past Rico, he was a bit overzealous, didn't take him seriously, and that's what we saw. Which is the same thing we saw when Tyson Fury fought Francis Ngannou. But he showed up a lot more serious for Alexander Usyk in the following fight, and the same could apply to Usyk. He might show up a lot more serious for Agit Kabayel on Agit's home turf. The bookies might even have him as the underdog going into that fight. They often call boxing the theater of the unexpected, and what people are not expecting is for the Alexander Usyk of old to show up. The one who made his name going to other people's countries and taking their belts from them. This fight with Rico and how it looked, and what people are saying, may be just what the doctor ordered for Alexander Usyk, who may have grown complacent after his 2 wins over Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. He thought he was going to get to take it easy. In Rico, he got more than he bargained for, and that might have been just the swift kick in the ass that he needed to wake the fuck up You're better than a lot of these guys. You have been. But you're not just better for the sake of being better or feeling better. It's something you have to do, actively. It's something that you have to show. It's in how you get ready, how you prepare. You're not the better fighter because the pundits say so. You're the better fighter because you can get out there and prove it. Being in the heavyweight division where you're always one punch away from being knocked out, you can't afford to be in cruise control. You can't coast. And I expect that a more serious Alexander Usyk will show up for Agit Kabayel. The Boo Birds are definitely chirping about the performance yesterday as veteran content creator Brendan Taylor said Zuffa Boxing, Ring Magazine, and Sella is all the same thing, and all of it is trash. He said it's not good for boxing or America. That's what he said. But wasn't it in America that Rolly Romero got a gift stoppage over Ishmael Barroso for punches that he didn't even land? And wasn't it in America that Lamont Roach got screwed on the cards since the referee, Steve Willis, decided not to count Gervonta Davis taking a knee in the middle of the fight as an official knockdown? Before you turn your nose up at yesterday's contest, Turkey LL Sheik or Sella, really think about what you're saying, because what you're saying sounds fucking stupid. I didn't like yesterday's stoppage, but I'm not gonna pretend that I haven't seen worse right here in the United States, because I have. And it really is what T Street Controversy said. Alexander Usyk has a lot of critics and a lot of haters right here in the United States who have been waiting for something negative to say. These sort of Americentric, agenda-driven content creators, just like Brendan Taylor, are more concerned with making buddy-buddy with boxers than being objective in covering the sport. Yesterday's stoppage wasn't the best, but it was actually far from the worst. And I've seen worse stoppages than that right here in America. This guy thinks that Zuffa and Ring Magazine are bad for boxing, but you know what he thinks is good? Brand risk. The fuck is that? That's Aiden Ross's boxing promotion where uber celebrities duke it out as best as they can, saying brand risk promotions is awesome. I'm really enjoying the authenticity of everyone expressing themselves. So let me see if I understand this. The boxing snob that's too good for a crossover fight between Usyk and Rico, he thinks that's bad, but he thinks that this slop, this schlock, this is good. Yeah, he seems to like influencer boxing. It's the funniest thing, all of these boxing entities that he is so vehemently against, if you removed them from the boxing space right now, what would you be left with? Take away Sella and Turkey LL Sheik and all the fights they've put together in the last 2 years. And take away Zuffa too, even though they're a new entry into the boxing space. Just go ahead and remove them as well. What would you be left with? I don't know, because the PBC doesn't do that many shows anymore. Top Rank only just arrived on the DAZN platform, and they've only done one show so far. What would you have been left with for the last 2 years? Well, somebody needs to ask Brendan, since he thinks that Sella and Zuffa are so bad for boxing in spite of all the fights that they've put together, but brand risk. Oh, that's it. That's the future. That's how you save boxing in America. What have I been telling you about American content creators? Most of them. And most of the boxing takes that come from the Americans, they're usually bad. The worst in the industry, I'd say. I mean, most of the networks are gone. Most of the money that they were pouring into the sport, that's out of here. ESPN is only back in boxing in the form of MVP, but they're not even doing as many shows as they used to. And forget about pouring $80 million into the sport annually. Those days are over. Showtime, they're completely gone. Without an ESPN to pour $80 million into the sport, who's supposed to do it, Brendan? Because they're not doing that anymore. And Paramount is only back in the form of Zuffa Boxing that you claim is bad for the sport and bad for the United States? Okay then, remove them. And what do you replace them with, Brendan? What do you propose these bullheaded and stupid takes from your typical American content creator who cares more about making friends with the boxers than actually covering the sport? You think boxing in America's in the crapper because of Turkey and Sella? Because of Zuffa? Because of one dubious stoppage yesterday at the pyramids at Giza? Because that never happens in America, right? Oddly enough, Alexander Usyk himself is unbothered by disputed Verhoeven stoppage, saying, "It's not my job." The heavyweight king thanked God and kissed the cross hanging from his neck steps away from the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. Usyk evidently understood that he dodged a bullet by scoring a come-from-behind win in the 11th, saving himself from a monumental upset against a kickboxer who was boxing for only the second time. Usyk looked average for long stretches of that fight and shockingly allowed the novice boxer to bank many rounds before referee Mark Lyson ensured the judges wouldn't be needed when he controversially stepped in to wave off the action at the 2-minute and 59 mark of the round. It was a hard fight, Usyk told Boxing King Media. Rico was a good fighter and well prepared. Everything is okay. We got the win, and we'll continue working and training. At the time of the stoppage, Usyk was down 96-94 on one card, while the other two judges had it 95-95. The punch stats, 113 landed for Verhoeven, 112 for Usyk, further reflected the close nature of the contest. Before the fight was ruled over, Usyk dropped Verhoeven with a vicious right uppercut that forced him to fall face first into the bottom ropes with just 22 seconds remaining. Verhoeven valiantly picked himself up only to see Usyk dial up the pressure with a flurry of punches, prompting Lyson to move in and end matters immediately after the bell had already sounded. While the Dutchman protected himself on his feet, I do not think about this. A lot of people said the stoppage was early. Listen, it's not my job. My job is boxing, said Usyk. We'll never know what could have been in the 12th, but because of what presumably would have been a 2-point round in the 11th, Verhoeven would have needed a knockout or a knockdown of his own to not lose the fight on the cards. Verhoeven revealed that he has filed a protest and intends to continue the next chapter of his fighting career as a boxer. The conversation about Usyk, meanwhile, immediately shifted towards a fight against the geek Kabayel in Germany. Usyk, the Ring Magazine, IBF, WBA, and WBC heavyweight champion, said he's not thinking about what's next, but he'll be ready for whatever comes. I'm going to rest, he said, and do homework.
Very good fight. Yeah. I don't expect that from Rico, but very good fight.
How did you score it? Keep going faster, please. Faster.
Tough to say.
Yeah. Early stoppage, that?
Huh?
Was that an early stoppage?
I don't think so. I think they save a brutal knockout.
They're pulling the cars up right now.
Not everybody's coming down on Usyk. Not everybody's depriving him of grace. Canelo Alvarez feels that Rico was saved from being stopped in even more brutal fashion by Mark Lyson. My thoughts. I didn't like the stoppage. I feel that Mark should have let it go on. Let the guy go out on a shield if he has to, and don't deprive the paying public of a sense of finality. Just gonna piss people off. Why do that? What do I think was about to happen? I trust Alexander Usyk enough that even if Rico would have survived the 11th, I'm convinced Usyk would have knocked him out in the 12th. Rico was hurt, and he knew it. That's why he tried that veteran tactic, spitting out his gum shield to buy himself more time, because he had not fully recovered from the initial knockdown. He knew what he was doing. So did Usyk. That's why he jumped on him towards the end of the 11th, and I believe that at the beginning of the 12th, he would have done the same. He would have poured it on, and he would have taken him out. Usyk has shown me enough against high-level boxers that I trust him to have knocked out Rico in the 12th. But unfortunately, Mark Lyson, he fucked up. He fucked it up. Maybe I am choosing to give Alexander Usyk more grace than a lot of people. But who deserves it more than that guy? He was asleep at the wheel yesterday, but I expect him to come back better.